Recently in Rise of Kingdoms, Lilith announced the two new engineering commanders coming to the game, and we know everything that is inside of their kit. But now, looking at the new updates coming to the game, there was one commander that was missing, a Garrison commander, and Lilith has just officially announced this new Garrison commander and all of their skills. So in today's video, we're going to go over the brand new leadership Garrison commander, everything you need to know about them, and why I think they really are not the most overpowered Garrison, and they may not even be in the meta even at the point they release. So if you're interested in this new Garrison commander, all their skills, their possible pairs, and why I think they're probably not meta, you want to stick around till the end of the video. So now here is the new Garrison commander. I'm going to call him Lapu, I think that's how you say it, but I'm just going to call him Lap, L-A-P, since that's just the first three letters of his name, and I don't want to offend everyone the second I say his name, since I don't know how to say it. And he was the commander that Lilith announced coming a while ago with the leadership Garrison skill tree. He is, I'm pretty sure, a Filipino commander as well, from what I've heard, which I think makes him the first Filipino commander that is added to the game. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure he is the first that is currently in the game. So now with that kind of historical outline and a bit about his history and just his name out of the way, let's get into the skills, and we'll start off with his active skill, which is a 5-target AoE with damage factor 2000. Every additional target reduces that damage by 15%, and also if the current target is a rallied army, they take extra damage factor of 300. I mean, this is a very solid active skill right off the bat. I mean, it's definitely strong. 5-target AoE, I'm going to presume in a circle. Lilith likes circle AoEs on Garrisons. Maybe it's a fan shape, that's certainly possible as well. And it's just going to be fairly strong. I mean, this is a crazy high AoE. It's like Zulang as a Garrison. And then the extra damage to the rally helps eliminate that 15% reduction if there are other troops standing in the way. Then we look at Lap's second skill here, and it is really pretty boring. I mean, he gains 20% attack. This is at all times, also on the open field. And then he deals 10% more skill damage whenever attacking a rallied army. That means he could actually technically deal this extra skill damage if he isn't a Garrison, like if he's only attacking a rally. So if you're swarming a rally with him for whatever reason, you could technically deal both the extra damage on the active skill and then also the extra skill damage on the second skill here. Moving on to his third skill, Lap gains a 10% defense and 10% health bonus if he's running at least 3 different unit types. And also, when he's serving as a Garrison, the Garrison takes 5% less damage. If this Garrison is in your own city, the damage reduction is increased by 5%, making it up to a 10% all damage reduction, which is very strong. I mean, the health and defense here are fairly low numbers, but this is an up to 10% all damage reduction, and I'm sure pretty much everyone can agree that's a fairly high amount, especially to have just 24/7. He doesn't have to trigger this at all. As long as he's garrisoning your city, he's at 10% all damage reduction, which means over a long garrison period, that's really going to add up. Moving on to his fourth skill, whenever this commander uses an active skill, if he's serving as a stronghold garrison, the garrison gains a 10% bonus to all damage dealt for 3 seconds. If he's serving as one of your city garrison commanders though, he gains a 20% bonus to all damage dealt for 3 seconds. Once again, very big emphasis on being in a city here. Doubling the amount of all damage you're dealing is insane for a city garrison, so up to a 20% damage bonus for 3 seconds, or even if he's a stronghold garrison, he is getting a 10% bonus. Then when we move on to his expertise, he just is an improvement of his active skill. He still deals the same amount of AoE damage to 5 targets, but the damage he deals to the rallied army, the extra damage factor, is now 500, very similar to the way that, let's say, a Shurbanipal works, because now it's just going to make his single target damage a little bit more formidable rather than just being an AoE beast. The next part of his expertise, and this is technically the strongest part in his kit, is if this commander is serving as one of your city's garrison commanders, their current target is also disarmed for 1 second, and then also for the next 3 seconds, he takes a 10% less skill damage. So looking at that, it's just going to be once again a very good improvement if you are a city garrison. And one thing to note with Disarm, it's something I'm sure most of you guys haven't seen in a while. The last commander released with Disarm, to my knowledge, was Artemisia, and disarm is actually really powerful. The way it works is it stops commanders from launching basic attacks, and why would anyone care about that? Well, it means that any form of anything triggered with a basic attack won't happen. To my knowledge, rage you gain from a turn does not occur. Counterattack and normal attack damage will not occur. Anything such as a triggered bonus, maybe let's say Herman Prime's, I think it's his 4th skill or his 3rd skill, where he can trigger poison effects, will not occur at all. And this is pretty good at shutting down Lauchase as well, because disarm will stop him from double doing his normal attack. So disarm definitely is a very strong thing to have on a commander, and it's able to shut down a lot of things in their kits. Even feral nature actually does get shut down by disarm as well, and also stuff like horns, rings, daggers, all of these other things that just have chances to trigger from normal attacks. Whenever you're disarmed, will not occur, because normal attacks definitely are a very important part of the game. So this disarm effect is really powerful. Even though it's just 1 second, it's 1 second where all of those things may have triggered, but they can't trigger because of the disarm effect. So now that we've really looked at his skills, what do I think of his kit? And I'll start off by saying there is a lot of emphasis here on being a city garrison. First of all, there's a 5% all damage reduction here. Then there is a 10% all damage increase on his 3rd skill. And then the disarm effect, which is arguably his most powerful thing, is only when he's serving as one of your city's garrison commanders, rather than being a stronghold commander as well. Usually, if it is something like this, they'd say if this commander is serving as a stronghold garrison or a city garrison commander, their current target is also disarmed. But here it's saying city garrison only, which means in a normal garrison situation, he's not that insane. I mean, his disarm effect is really strong, to say the least, but he doesn't get access to that. And also, he isn't really getting this extra 10% skill damage reduction because he's not a city garrison. So when he's not serving as a city garrison, he's losing out on a lot of his kit. He's losing 10% skill damage reduction, 5% all damage reduction, 10% all damage increase, and then a disarm effect as well. And then other than that, I mean, the rest of his stats are pretty low, if anything. A 20% attack bonus is next to nothing. 10% skill damage is nice, but once again, that's low compared to what we usually see nowadays. A 10% health and defense bonus, it's nice, but still is low compared to what we normally see. And then just a 10% bonus to all damage is a strong skill, but because you can't access all the all damage unless you're a city garrison, this skill is also not the most amazing for a normal garrison. So the only thing that Lap really has going in his kit is this active skill damage factor, which is fairly strong. But other than that, I don't really see much crazy stuff in his kit. There's nothing in his kit that's like, wow, that's insane. There's nothing in his kit that's like, oh, that's really going to make it my strong anti-swarm garrison. It's more just, he has a probably 5 target circle AoE, which has fairly decent damage factor, but his debuff, limited to being a city garrison. A lot of the stats that he gains are also limited to being a city garrison as well. So because of those reasons, I think that Lap is going to be a really good city garrison. I mean, as a city garrison, I think he's going to be really nice. He's got disarm, he's got all damage reductions, he's got skill damage reductions, he's got all damage increases, and he's got a really good AoE. And when you're running a city garrison, that's usually what you want, and he's got a way to somewhat deal with rallies. But in a flag, he doesn't really have much going for him besides the DPS. But even then, you'd probably run something like a Zulane in a flag if you really want a DPS. So I don't think Lap is really going to be a strong commander for flag garrisons and pass garrisons, especially if he can get swarmed, and especially if he can't really access his disarm effect, which he can't do. So I think, in my opinion, he's definitely not going to be completely rubbish in a garrison situation for anything besides cities, but he's definitely going to be more focused on being a strong and a powerful city garrison, rather than being a strong and powerful flag garrison, where it seems there are other and possibly better options for the other troop types, and even just for leadership in general. Because some people will say you could run him with Heraclius because of his leadership mix, and I'll tell you a little bit later about that. But I think that you also do want him to have a lot of standalone strength in his kit as well, rather than just relying on Heraclius to be a strong commander. So Lap doesn't look like the worst garrison commander, but he doesn't look as game-breaking as a lot of the other garrisons that we have seen in the recent year or so, especially compared to commanders like Heraclius, Ditto, Yarn, Ziskar, Gorgo, who were just pretty much game-breaking when they first released. I don't think Lap is really going to be at that level besides when he is a city garrison. Now moving on to the best garrison pairs for Lap. The first one I'd say is really good. It's just going to be Heraclius. I mean, as a city garrison, Heraclius already gets some bonuses such as a 10% counterattack damage boost. He also increases the amount of mighty shield he has, and I think that's pretty much the main bonuses he gets. Not to mention he does benefit whenever you're running multiple different troop types. So Heraclius is a really tanky commander, high counterattack, high shielding, who doesn't really have much damage factor. That benefits from multiple troop types. And what does Lap do? Well, Lap, with his new garrison commander, don't forget I am calling him Lap. The way he works is he is a very not tanky garrison commander with extremely high damage factor, who also benefits from running multiple unit types. So in that situation, I think that Heraclius with this new commander will be very good as just a mixed troop garrison. It's going to be better than running something like a Heraclius Gorgo, a Heraclius Ditto, and a Heraclius Yarnziska, but it's not going to be better than just running a Gorgo Constantine, for example, or maybe even a Gorgo Heraclius may still be a little bit better than running this new commander with Heraclius in a normal garrison situation. As for city garrison though, I think that this will be the absolute meta pairing. A Lap with a Heraclius easily will be extremely strong. It's going to have AoE for days. It's going to have really solid increases. For example, Heraclius is boosting skill damage on his third skill, which obviously Lap is going to benefit from having a 2000 damage AoE. And then Heraclius is just all around really tanky with lots of shielding and lots of counterattack, which Lap doesn't really have in his kit. So I think that Heraclius with Lap is going to be really good, but it's not going to be game breaking in the normal garrison. It's just going to be probably the new best mixed troop garrison for both normal garrisoning like flags and stuff, and also garrisoning your city. As for other pairs, I don't really know if this commander will work with anyone else. I mean, maybe with Yarnziska, Ditto, and Gorgo, they could be pretty good because these are three other fairly meta garrisons, but for the most part, it looks like he's more going to be with Heraclius because the only thing that he's really got going for him is his damage and the way he can be used with mixed troops. But for most mixed troop garrisons, if you're not running a Heraclius, I'd rather run the Heraclius than Lap, because Heraclius, his anti-swarm capabilities are through the roof. He's got a fairly decent AoE on his own, he's got a lot of shielding factor, and he's got his own skill damage bonuses and all damage bonuses, and even his own normal damage reduction. So I think that Heraclius is a very solid commander compared to Lap, and without using Heraclius with that commander, I don't think he's really gonna be meta, especially with other commanders like Gorgo and like Ditto, who are not the most tanky, but they can definitely benefit from having extra damage. Just I think the tankiness on Heraclius will be better to put with them instead of the extra damage from the new garrison commander. So overall pairings, really it's just Heraclius and almost nobody else, because every other commander besides Heraclius, Ziska, Ditto, and also Gorgo is pretty much not meta, besides like Constantine, who only works with Gorgo. So for the majority of the time, I want to say Gorgo, Ditto, or Yarnziska are not going to be the best pairings for this commander, but they may be options in some situation. Now, the next thing I would like to discuss is this new garrison commander going to be worth your investment? Should you consider investing in them? And I think the short answer is really just a no. Most players should not really invest in any garrison commanders in general, besides Gorgo. She's really the only exception that is currently in the game because she has a lot of open field potential. As for whales who want to make that decision, if you're willing to use them as a mixed troop garrison and you are running a fairly solid leadership set with a mixed troop garrison already, then this commander is going to be a fairly okay improvement over commanders like Gorgo, Ditto, and Yarnziska. But if you're not really looking to run a Heraclius mixed garrison, and you're happy with running a Gorgo Constantine maybe, or even just a Gorgo Heraclius, or maybe even a Ditto Heraclius, whatever garrison it may be, then you don't really need this new commander. I mean, they're not going to be rubbish. Obviously, they're still going to be pretty strong if you do invest in them. But in terms of being a garrison meta commander, they're only going to be meta if you're running mixed troops. Otherwise, they're not going to be absolutely insane, and they're not going to be game-breaking like when Heraclius first released. So for the most part, I wouldn't recommend most players invest in this commander. Free-to-players, low spenders, people who are not garrisons, they're not useful. And even though Lapu is going to be the best city garrison commander in the game probably, I wouldn't really recommend investing in any commanders just for your city. It's better off just using a peace shield if you are going to get rallied, because unless you're above like 150 million power, if you get rallied, you're going to end up getting a bad trade. There's really no way around it. So unless you are a really high power player, there's almost no point in running a city garrison, which is why there's almost no point in even investing in one. You might as well just put your best open field commanders on your city wall, because that's your best chance of at least getting a few kills before you get taken down, because in the end, you're pretty screwed even if you didn't have a city garrison. The only difference is it's going to slightly improve your trade, but even if they see a garrison commander on your wall, it's not like anyone's not going to attack you. If they really wanted to zero your city, they're going to go through with zeroing it, unless you're a massive player where the garrison commander will make a big difference, but even then you're probably going to invest in this commander without me even telling you to. So for the most part, I wouldn't invest in new commander, but if you are looking to do a mixed garrison, I think he'll be a fairly decent choice, though he's not 100% necessary. Unlike someone like Gorgo or Ditto or Yanzisko, even Heraclius, who I would have said is a guaranteed pretty much must invest for that troop type, he is more of a secondary investment if you are looking for something that's probably going to be a bit of an upgrade over the normal garrisons, but nothing completely meta breaking. Now, the final thing I'd like to discuss in today's video is when do I think this new commander is going to release? And the real short answer is I'd say within the next 3 to 4 weeks at the most, because usually when Lilith announces commanders this quickly, or not really this quickly, but usually when Lilith fully announces these commanders, they come out within 3 to 4 weeks, so I wouldn't be surprised if around 2 Mightiest Governor cycles from now, we see this new commander appear and people are able to unlock him, and that wouldn't be too shocking to me. I do think he'll be a Mightiest Governor commander for a really simple reason of this commander is definitely like the next leadership commander. We know that as a fact, and all the recent leaderships have been in the Mightiest Governor, especially the Garrison commanders. Wuzetian, Garrison, Theodora, Garrison, Suleiman, technically a rally, Heraclius, Garrison, Moctezuma, who knows, and they're all inside of the leadership Mightiest Governor. Whereas before, when we looked at leadership commanders who weren't in the Mightiest Governor, they're more commanders such as, let's say, Honda, who wasn't really a Garrison commander, Trajan, not really a Garrison commander. So all those commanders, they're not garrisons, and for that reason, they're not in the Mightiest Governor. But with this new commander, Lapu, they are a Garrison commander, and for that reason, they're pretty much guaranteed to be in the Mightiest Governor, with Heraclius and with Theodora and Wuzetian, who are all Garrison commanders in their own right. The only commander that is an exception to this rule is YSS. To my knowledge, he is the Wheel of Fortune, and the reason that's the case is because him and Theodora, to my knowledge, did release at the same time. So one of them had to go in the Wheel, one had to go in the Garrison, and so YSS did end up going in the Wheel of Fortune. But because this is the only leadership commander releasing at the moment, there's a very high chance that they end up inside the Garrison Mightiest Governor rather than inside of the Wheel of Fortune. So now that you've made it to the end of today's video, I want to ask you guys for a very small favor, and that is just consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by July, and I'm telling you it's going to be a worthy venture if you do subscribe. I try to release as many value-filled videos as I can. I am obviously an archer main, so I definitely specialize in archers, but I also know my stuff with other commanders like Cavs, like infantry, and even some things to do with garrison. So if you want the best commander advice in Rise of Kingdoms, if you want advice on equipment, saving speed-ups, KVK, resources, pretty much anything to do with Rise of Kingdoms, my channel is going to be one of the best channels to subscribe to. Also, your subscriptions do really help me a lot. They help me continue to grow the channel and also help me make new videos. So to all of you who just subscribed, a massive thank you. And to everyone who was already subscribed to the channel, a massive thank you to you as well. Now, I just want to say thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.